I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
There is no AIDS epidemic in the United States. There is no AIDS epidemic in Africa. There is no HIV disease epidemic in Africa. It is the biggest fraud in medical history and the most harmful.
My name is Terry Michael. I'm director of the Washington Center for Politics and Journalism. I'm also a freelance investigative reporter in Washington, D.C., where from July 22nd to 27th of 2012, I attended the 19th International AIDS Conference, a group of about 23,000 people from all over the world, most of whom make their livings studying the single pathogen retroviral theory of acquired immune deficiency syndrome. During the course of the conference, I ran into Dr. Robert Gallo.
So Terry Michael did a little interview with Robert Gallo at this AIDS conference in 2012. It's only audio, and it's not the greatest quality, but you can understand what they're saying. But before we go there, how about a little background on Robert Gallo?
Virologists were busy virus hunting in their laboratories around the world, trying to find one that could cause AIDS. On one side of the Atlantic, at the National Institutes of Health, Robert Gallo was working on his family of HTLV retroviruses. On the other side of the Atlantic, at the Pasteur Institute, Luc Montagnier was working on a strain he called LAV, cultured from one of his patients. He thought this might be the cause of AIDS and circulated a sample in the customary way to fellow virologists, including Robert Gallo. And here's how the story goes. In 1984, Gallo took out a patent for the HIV test based on his HTLV3 virus. Montagnier thought Gallo may have used his LAV virus for the US patent. 7 years later, Gallo did acknowledge in a letter to the journal Nature that the French virus and his own were the same, and blamed his error on inadvertent laboratory contamination. However, at the time, an acrimonious lawsuit was set in motion surrounding the patent for the AIDS test, when the French sued the Americans. Was it accident or theft, as the French lawyers suggested in court? The whole episode appeared so unseemly at a time when people were dying around them that Presidents Chirac and Reagan were drawn in. They shook hands and decided further litigation would be inappropriate. They did a deal under which patent income from the test and credit for its discovery was to be shared between France and the United States. LAV and HTLV3 were dropped, and it was agreed that the virus was to be called the Human Immune Deficiency Virus, HIV.
Co-discoverers of HIV. One of them is Robert Gallo. He was found guilty of scientific misconduct over his research in 1993. Congress reviewed it. He was kicked out of the National Cancer Institute.
When Robert Gallo discovered human T-cell leukemia virus 3, now known as HIV, linking it to AIDS, he called a national press conference even before having his theory peer-reviewed or published.
It was a political proclamation of scientific truth. Robert Gallo successfully lobbied Margaret Heckler, who was then the Secretary of Health and Human Services, to proclaim his view of what caused AIDS to be absolute scientific truth. And she went on with him in tow and announced that.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The probable cause of AIDS has been found.
Credit must go to our eminent Dr. Robert Gallo, who directed the research that produced this discovery.
On that very day, Robert Gallo took out a patent for HIV.
Because Bob Gallo gets up, takes his sunglasses off and says, "Gentlemen, you discovered the cause of AIDS." That's all we have. New York Times article, CDC report, that's all we have. That's not enough. That's not enough to that is not sufficient to publish even a meager little scientific paper somewhere. That isn't enough for scientists to believe some inconsequential fact about some star 50 light years away. That's certainly not enough to treat at the cost of billions of dollars a year, and at the cost of a lot of lives and anguish, and just destroyed. Lives have just been totally ruined by this thing, on the basis of some flimsy little statement made by a guy who's known to be a crook in lots of other ways. He lied about a whole lot of other stuff. Why we trust him there? If he was a witness in a courtroom, we wouldn't trust his testimony. We've caught him in too many lies. You don't trust him anymore. We don't trust Gallo. We don't trust him. Nobody should trust Gallo. Gallo's been caught too many times making up stuff.
Now that we have a little background, let's go on to this audio recording of Terry Michael interviewing Robert Gallo.
Ever since Luc Montagnier in 2006 said the body can rid itself of HIV in a few weeks.
You can't be serious quoting him in this day and age.
Well, I know. I'm only asking you what do you think? What do you think of what he said?
Because you know what he's saying now. Homeopathy. He's into homeopathy. He's into anti-vaccine parades. He was just.
You're on the record.
Yes. Oh, okay.
I believe HIV, we can be exposed to HIV many times without being chronically infected. Our immune system could get rid of the virus within a few weeks if you have a good immune system.
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV.
Yes.
So whatever he said in 2006, it's hard to, but I will answer the question.
Okay.
Just pretend it came from you. Let's not say Montagnier, because it doesn't, I don't think there's any serious, forgive me. I wouldn't use his quote.
Okay, then let's go back to the last time this conference was in America. That's where he introduced the thought that HIV requires cofactors.
At first, yes, we thought we had the best candidate for this virus to be the cause of AIDS. But after a while, even from the beginning, actually, we thought maybe for the activation of that virus in cells, we need some cofactors.
What did you think of his cofactor view at the time?
But look, the burden of the evidence is on the person who claims it.
Yes.
Not the persons who say, I don't believe it, there's no evidence for it. So you tell me why you shouldn't be criticizing that statement because there isn't a shred of evidence for it. What's the evidence for a specific cofactor? If you know it, please tell me because I'm ignorant of it.
Now that's quite a statement coming from Gallo. The burden of the evidence is on the person who claims it, not the person who says, I don't believe it, I don't see any evidence. Because that's kind of what he did with HIV. And even Luc Montagnier admits they never purified HIV.
In 1997, in an interview with filmmaker Jamel Tahi, published in Continuum magazine, Montagnier said that HIV had never been purified.
Well, of course we looked for it. We saw some particles, but they didn't have the morphology of retroviruses.
He later said,
I repeat, we did not purify.
It was startling that Professor Montagnier decided to acknowledge in his interview with Jamel Tahi in Continuum that as far back as 1983, his team were not able to purify anything that you might call HIV, despite what he termed a Roman effort. So who should be surprised that when the same thing was attempted by expert laboratories in Germany and the United States, who published their results in the journal Virology, what they found was proteins and cellular debris.
So this is a message which may be different from what you heard before, no?
They're closing?
No, yes, my message is different from what you heard from Fauci or...
Yes, it's a little different.
It's a little different.
What evidence is there? We're in 2012. It's a scientific era. You need evidence to make statements.
Fucking stoned.